is great to be back. Last time we went over critical illness, and now we're going to go into disability. So I'm just going to overload you guys. Try not to, but I get so passionate about talking about disability. If I am talking too fast, it's because I am passionate and excited about this product. Just let me know. Parma, I have to share my screen. It's still not letting me.
I just allowed to share screen, so you should be able to now.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Okay, perfect. So for those who don't know who I am, like Parm said, I am Katrina. I am the Living Benefit Sales Director for here in beautiful BC. So if you have any questions when it comes to disability insurance, critical illness, or anything to do with Assure and Go, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I put my contact information in the chat. Also, see credits, first name, last name, AG code, and email down below in the chat, and we will issue C credits. So let us get started. I'm not going to talk about who IA is. If you don't know, we are the elephant in the room, okay? But you should know who IA is. We're Canada's 4th largest insurance company, and we're 1 in 4 life, critical illness, and disability insurance policies purchased in Canada is sold by IA. But, you know, today we're going to get right into it. Everyone knows about Evo. Evo is our online platform for life insurance and for critical illness. But the platform we're going to be on today is Assure and Go. There's 2 ways to access Assure and Go. Either you go directly from your advisor center, or you go to the website directly by visiting ago.iaexcellence.com. Once you get onto Assure and Go, this is what you're going to see. And as you can see, we offer a variety of products available on Assure and Go. I'm not going to go over each one of them. Why? We're going to save that for the next training, right? But all you need to know is that here at IA, we're all about options, right? Whether it's fully underwritten life, fully underwritten CI, but also simplified issue insurance. So maybe you had a client that's been recently declined, postponed for a fully underwritten product, whether it's life insurance or CI. We have backup options, right? But we also offer disability protection on a standalone, okay? So please keep that in mind. Now, I need some participation today. Otherwise, I'm going to start picking on names. So my question to you all is, what is your greatest asset? Harman, Juliana, you cannot answer because I know you know the answer. But everyone else on this call, please answer. If you're too shy, you can put it in the chat box. But everyone else, again, my question to you all is, what is your greatest asset? Okay, so I'm going to start calling on names. Mira, yours is the first name I saw. What is your greatest asset? She left. She got scared.
No, I didn't.
Oh, there you are.
I'm here.
I see your face now. Okay, perfect.
I'm here.
Perfect. What is your greatest asset?
My family.
Your family. That's a good answer. Absolutely. Family, right? Without family, what do we have, right? That's a great answer. I'm going to ask more. Let's see here. Nirjeet, what is your greatest asset? Did I scare them?
I think his audio isn't connected.
Yeah, because he unmuted. Okay, no worries. Let's see. Nazar, I see your name. Nazar, what is your greatest asset? If you don't answer, we're not going to issue you guys CE credits. So if I call your name and you don't answer, that's it. I'm going to cross your name from the sign-in sheet. Nazar, I'm going to ask you one more time. What is your greatest asset? Okay. No, that we're going to cross it. Oksana, I heard you answer earlier. What is your greatest asset?
Yeah, I answered health.
House? Yes, absolutely. Yes. You know, like, first of all, life's expensive to begin with, but if you own your own house, absolutely. But I'm still looking for a specific answer. Jaspreet said it. That's the answer I'm looking for. You are your greatest asset. Why? Is because you have the ability to work and earn income. And by earning an income, you can allocate that money for whatever need you have, whether it's for putting food on the table. Maybe you're sending your kids to college, to university, or you're paying for rent, paying for a mortgage. You have the ability to do that because you can work and earn an income. Now, by a show of hands, Do you have monthly bills? I know I do, right? No one else has monthly bills? Is it just me and a couple people? Right? Okay, Alina's saying, I do. I didn't see Vladimir put his hand up. So everyone, we're all going to move with Vladimir because he doesn't have monthly bills and life is expensive, right? Now, let me ask you, if your income stopped today, could you pay for those monthly bills? No, right? Some might say yes. I'll say how long. If you got disabled tomorrow due to an accident or illness, can you pay for your monthly bills? Right? So think about it. If you get into a disability, do you have a backup plan for medical emergencies? Or are you covered partial disability? Or better yet, do you have are you covered for an ambulance ride, for medication, for treatment, home support, private room, right? So all these questions that I'm asking you guys, A, write them down, and B, you should also be asking your clients, because if their income suddenly stopped due to a disability, how is that going to affect them? And if we take a look at statistics, it goes to show 1 in 2 Canadians live paycheck to paycheck. So imagine if your client was living paycheck to paycheck, right? And then suddenly their income stopped, right? Because they got into a car accident. Then what? Are they going to dip into their savings? Are they going to dip into their investments? Or what if they had nothing? Then what? They're going to go into debt. And that is the last thing that you want for your clients, right? What is your mission here at WFG? It's no family left behind. It's helping that middle market family not only help them get the proper protection that they need, but also to build financial wealth for themselves and for future generations to come, so that if their income stopped due to an accident or an illness, they wouldn't have to worry financially. Because if we take a look here, 1 in 3 people will have a 90-day or longer disability period at least once before the age of 65. In fact, 1 in 7 Canadians are disabled at any given time. And this last statistic is huge. Write this down. 48% of bankruptcies and mortgage foreclosures are due to a disability. That is huge. 48%. So imagine now, your client got disabled. How is that going to affect them? Right? But you know what? Instead of having to worry how it's going to affect them, you offered them a solution. Because when we think about disability, most people think they're bedridden, they're in the hospital, but a disability could something be so simple as, let's say you're on your way to the office, you get into a car accident. Maybe you're at the gym, you're working out, getting that summer body. Guess what? You pulled a muscle. Now you can't do your job. Or better yet, you're walking down the stairs, la-di-da-di-da, boom, you tripped and fell. It happens, right? That's what a disability is about. It's everyday occurrences that we don't even think about. So today's conversation is, what can you offer to your clients, right? But how do you protect their greatest asset, which is their income? So AxeJet is a simplified disability protection in the event that your client gets an accident or soft tissue injury. And there's a possibility of adding illness protection as well. Now, for the accident or soft tissue injury, if there's 2 coverage options. Number 1 is non-work related, and number 2 is 24 hours. And we always recommend choosing 24 hours because we never know when your client may face a disability, whether they're at work, outside of work, at home. If they get disabled at any given time, they can have a peace of mind that they are protected and they can make a claim. Now, in AxeJet, there's $1,000 that's non-integrated benefit for the first 2 years of the claim. And what I mean about that, if your client was to get hurt tomorrow, the first thing that's always going to pay out to them is WCB, EI, group benefits, short-term, long-term disability, ICBC. Those are always the first payers. AxeJet will pay $1,000 above and beyond any disability benefit your client may be getting. So this is allowing your clients to get more protection, even if they have comprehensive coverage. We have the overhead expense insurance, which means if your client is a business owner, not only are they protecting their greatest asset, which is their income, they could also protect their business so that even if they cannot work there, right, the business can continue running and still earn a profit even without them and still being able to pay for the bills. And some of those expenses are, for example, could be like payroll, for rent, or for equipment. Now, we have a couple riders available on AxiJet, and we're going to go into more detail ones on the illustration. So I don't want to do my whole presentation on the PowerPoint because that's just kind of boring. So let's jump into our illustration to just get more hands-on experience. Sounds good? I don't see any questions in the Q&A. So like I said, you can access the platform either through the Advisor Center, or you can do it by going to the website directly by visiting ago.iaccess.com. Now, keep in mind, this is a web-based platform. So whether you have a tablet, a Mac, an HP, a Windows, a Bell, it doesn't matter, right? As long as you have internet access, you can go onto the the platform and do an illustration from anywhere and everywhere. Now, I know mine's a little slow because I use an internal website. Yours is not going to be the same. Yours is actually going to be faster. Another thing is if you have an existing Assure and Go policy, we made changes to the system where now you're able to go onto the platform and look up your client's policies. Before you couldn't. So now that's another feature added onto Assure and Go. So let's just wait for this. It's still thinking. It's like, okay, I want to go to bed now, but we got to keep going. So let's jump into our illustration here. This lime green button says get an illustration. And as you can see, our product menu, and it's divided into two categories. So on the left-hand side, we have simplified issue products, which means there's no medical underwriting. So it's a set of questions that you ask your clients. It's either yes or no, right? So if your client can answer no to the questionnaire, you submit the application, boom, instant approval. So within 48 to 72 hours, your client is getting the coverage in a quicker manner. That's how easy it is. We have underwritten products. We're going to do training that next time. And if your client is healthy, they're looking for accident and illness, you go fully underwritten disability. That's our rule of thumb. Why? It's because it's the more comprehensive coverage. And if your client makes a claim, it's easier for the claim to be approved because of the coverage it has. Term life insurance, take that out. Don't even look at it. If you're going to do term insurance, go to Evo. Evo has more flexibility and more coverage options. So we're going to go into AxiJet, create a new client, and hit add. And all you want to do is answer line by line so that you don't miss any section. But also you're able to get the premiums on the illustration. So once we get into this, we're going to go right into it. Now I was just thinking. Okay, so for this example, the first person I saw their name, I'm going to do this for Juliana, and I believe her last name started with an O. I think that's right. Right, Farm? I think it was her last name starts with an O. Okay, so Juliana's female.
You can keep it an O, but it starts with a S.
Oh, sorry. My bad. There you go. And we're going to make Juliana 30 years old. Okay? So female 30 years old. We don't even ask about smoker status. I am going to give you a recipe to talk to your clients. How do you even start the conversation? So make sure you're writing this down. So step one, when you're in front of your client, just like I asked you those questions, ask them is, how are they going to pay for the bills if their income suddenly stops? Do they have a backup plan? Right? That's number one. Number two, ask them, do they have any disability benefits? WCB, EI, group benefits, ICBC. Because that is going to tell you what they have, but more importantly, it's going to tell you what they don't have. And that's how you're going to build a policy for your client. So one thing first is that, why do you also want to know that? It's going to affect their benefits at the beginning of the claim. So the first question the system asks is your client eligible for EI? Yes or no? Again, that's going to affect their benefits at the beginning of the claim. And keep in mind that EI only pays up to 4 months, which is equivalent to 119 days. The next question, is your client a truck driver? Yes or no? This doesn't mean that truck drivers are not eligible for disability. It just means it's a little bit more costly for truck drivers. Now here, what we're doing is income protection. So we need to know two things about the client. We need to know A, what is the job that they have? And B, what is the risk in their day-to-day jobs? So here we classified at the bottom as a C. So C means a high risk job, but it's going to affect the premiums on the client's policy. It's going to be more costly for the client. So some examples of a C are taxi drivers, Uber drivers, skip the dishes, Uber Eats, police officers. Your 1A category, it's going to be a lot of your physical labor clients. Why? It's because their job requires more than 20% of physical work, but they're not in a high risk environment. So some examples are, let's say, truck drivers, construction workers, electricians, mechanics, framers. And on the top one, the 4A, it's a lot of your higher professionals. So your dentists, lawyers, architects, professors. So again, depending on the client's occupation class, it's going to affect their premiums on their policy. So let's do a little exercise here. I want you to read the definitions, and I tell you, I am your client. I am a nurse. What do you think is the occupation class? So I am a nurse. What do you think is my occupation class?
2A.
2A. So you only said 2A. Anyone else?
I'd say probably.
I know it's tough.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Someone said B. I think, yeah, someone said B. Anyone
Maybe
else?
I would say C, possibly.
C? Yeah, okay. Anyone else? No one else? Going once? Going twice? Okay. If I didn't work for IA and I read these definitions, I would have agreed with you, Parm. I would have said C, right? Nurses work long hours of the day. That's like a no-brainer. You know, it's a physical, mental, emotional, straining job. You never know what type of patients you work with, right? Let me make your life easier. Occupation list, type in nurse. It actually gives you a better result. So a nurse is a 3A, but if they're a supervisor and they're a nurse, it's a 4A. Okay, so maybe instead of trying to determine like you choosing, go search it up, right? If your client's occupation class isn't there, you know, you're going to text me saying, Katrina, this is what my client does. So what is their job title? What are their duties? And I will take a look at for you. Simple as that. So for this case, for Juliana, we're going to make her a hairdresser because everyone knows what a hairdresser does, cuts hair. We hit apply, boom. Now, when it comes to disability, there's two things you want to need to know. Write this down. Number one, disability is based on income. The higher the income, the higher the benefit. Okay. Number two, the maximum annual income your client can receive in total is 65%. That is not an IA rule. That is an industry rule. Sorry, not an industry rule. That is a government rule. Okay. The government said we're going to put this limit to how much you can get while on claim. Why? Is because if everyone got 100% of their income, no one's going to want to go back to work. They're going to stay at home, watch Netflix, eat chocolate. Why? It's because I would do that. They'd be like, hey, I'm getting 100% income. I'm going to go watch Netflix. Why not? So the government said, okay, you can only get 65% of your annual income, right? How do you prove income? It's through your T1 general. So it's not through notice of assessment. It's not through the biweekly paycheck. It's through what are you claiming on taxes? So if you're an employee, you're looking at the T1 general, specifically line 101 on the T1, okay? If your client is self-employed, we're looking for one of these lines here, 135, 137, 139, 141, or 143. And if your client is a business owner, we're looking for two things. Line 101 on a T1 general and this T2125 statement. Now, maybe your client is a business owner and they don't have that T2125 statement. That is okay. Then they're just going to be considered as a self-employed. It does not matter if your client is an employee, self-employed, or a business owner. What matters is what income can they prove? We don't need proof of income at the time of application. We need proof of income at the time of claim. right? And you don't need to memorize these lines. It's because it's already indicated there on the illustration itself. So Juliana is 30 years old. She's a hairdresser, so she's classified as a 1A, and her annual income is $60,000. Now we're going to build this application for her. So first things first is, what type of coverage is your client looking for? Always choose 24 hours. Why? Is because at any time of the day, if your client gets disabled, they're protected. Whether they're at work, outside of work, at the gym, maybe, on the ferry, right? At the movies, if they get disabled, they're protected. Now, when it comes to disability, there's two things. There's regular occupation and there's benefit period. And these two come hand in hand. It's not the same thing. It's two very different things. So benefit period means how long does the client want to get their money for while on claim? Another way of looking at it is, how long does your client want to recover while they're on claim, right? How much time do they need off in order to fully recover? So you have 2 years, 5 years, or up to age 70. Regular occupation. This is important. So when your client gets disabled, how do you determine if they're disabled? So number one, our disability policies based on total disability. How do we determine that? At the moment your client gets into an accident or illness, they have to go see the doctor. And the doctor is going to assess your client. So based on their accident, based on their illness, can they do their regular occupation? Which translates to, based on their accident, based on their illness, can they do their job or not? Yes or no? If your client, yes?
I wanted to mention here, this would be your own family doctor, right?
That's correct. Your own family doctor. But, if you do not have your own family doctor, you can go to a walk-in clinic, right? And the doctor's going to assess you. So they have to say, okay, can you do your job or not? Make sense? Now, if your client cannot do their job or not, that means they're considered totally disabled. So let me give you an example. So Juliana is a hairdresser. Let's say, she was rollerblading with her son, and she fell and she got a disability on her arm. So in that case scenario, because she can't do her job, now she can't do her job, like can't cut hair, she can make a claim and her benefit is going to be paid out each month, right? Now, in this case scenario, she can get her benefit up to 2 years. But let's say, you chose a 5-year benefit period or up to age 70. So regular occupation, that definition is only valid for 2 years. So let's say, after Juliana gets disabled with her arm, IA pays her benefit each month for 2 years straight. After 2 years, on the 25th month, the definition changes to any reasonable occupation, which means based on your client's skills, based on their education, based on their background, are they able to work and earn income somewhere else? It doesn't have to be in the same field. It doesn't have to be in the same company, but are they able to work and earn income? Period. So maybe based on Juliana's customer service skills, she can go work at Walmart as a Walmart greeter and earn a similar pay, even though she's still disabled on her arm. If that is the case, if she's able to work and earn income somewhere else, her benefit stops. Or maybe because of her, business background, maybe she could work at a call center for TELUS and still earn a similar pay and not have to use her arm. So the moment the client works and earns income, they're no longer considered disabled and their benefits stop. So I'm going to pause on that and I'm going to ask, is there any questions?
So that would be under regular occupation, right?
Right.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. That's for regular occupation. Yep. Any other questions?
Yeah, may I have asked, so for how many years we doing this application, the disability application?
What do you mean?
I mean, for example, term insurance, we're doing term 10, life insurance, universal.
Oh, yes. So this policy is up until age 65.
So this always up to 65.
That is correct. That's right.
And for example, if I'm nurse and I already have a disability from work, like 3 annual paychecks, yeah, or maybe 2 or 3, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So why do I need this disability? Could
So
you
why? Right. So why do you need this disability? Is that WCB EI group benefits? Those benefits are not guaranteed. Number one. Number two, those benefits are limited. So if you take a look at your group benefits, a lot of clients don't realize what they're covered for and how long they're covered for. Right? So this is to make sure that even if those benefits stops, you still have a backup plan. Make sense, Tatiana?
Yeah, so we
Also-
know exactly what kind of benefit we have from our work.
That's right. So that's
usually-
good to make sure you always get a copy of their benefits and see what they have and what they don't have. Farm, you wanted to say
Also-
something?
Yeah, I was gonna mention here as well. Some people, they do have WCB coverage, but remember, when you're gonna qualify for WCB coverage, you have to qualify through their doctors. They
Right.
will assess you and they will determine do you get a benefit or not. Now, ask yourself, if the doctor is working for WCB, they will more than likely try to get you back to work as soon as possible.
Mhm.
If it's your own family doctor, you can, of course, they will assess you, but you can run that a lot longer, depending on that situation as well. So I just wanted to add that in.
Right. Absolutely.
Wanna
Any
add
other questions?
something? I want to add actually something from my own experience because I've been on those claims and WCB and medical EI as well. And it's terrible because the WCB never approved me. The reason why, because of the pre-existing conditions in another province. Okay.
Mm.
And it took more than a year of fighting for the case, as well as medically I was only covered for the 119 days, as you mentioned.
Mhm.
And you have to be an employee to get those benefits. So unfortunately, as a hairdresser, I was self-employed at that time. First, I have to prove it to CRA that actually I was employee in a couple months, and then I was able to get 119 days benefit. And it was 55% only and taxable.
Mhm.
So that was my case. So I will never recommend someone rely on the government benefit or work compensation benefit.
And that's a great example, Juliana, because I had an advisor who called me last year and the client got denied with WCB. But thank God the advisor had actually applied for AxioJet for that client. And they said, Katrina, can I still make a claim even though they got denied? And I said, well, is your client working? No. Are they earning income? They said, no. Then I said, absolutely. So here at IA, as long as your client is not working and earning an income, they can make a claim and get their benefit paid out. Does that help, Tatiana?
I wanted to ask something else. Waiting period. I see the
We're
next.
getting there. We're not there yet.
waiting
Hold
period.
on. Hold your horses. I just want to make sure everyone understands what regular occupation is and its benefit period. Okay?
Yeah, this is
Perfect. Let's move on because we still have a lot more to talk about. So now, based on Juliana's annual income of $60,000, the maximum she's eligible is $3,500, right? When it comes to disability, all benefits are integrated. What that means is that if your client is getting WCB, EI, group benefits, ICBC, a portion of their maximum benefit will be paid out, right? So let's say Juliana's going to get $1,000 from WCB, $1,000 from EI, $1,500 from group benefits. And when you add all that up, it equals her maximum. So what she's eligible for, which is $3,500. Earlier, I mentioned non-integrated, which means in AxioJet, the non-integrated benefit is $1,000, which is going to pay on top of that $3,500. And that is going to pay $1,000 for the first 2 years of the claim. So let's say, Juliana says with you as her advisor is that I'm getting $3,500, but it's not enough. I need $3,800 a month, or let's say $4,000. You could still apply that non-integrated benefit, and that's going to pay out for the first 2 years of the claim. So instead of getting $3,500, they're going to get $4,500. So $1,000 is coming from IA. But maybe the client only gets EI in this case scenario, but the client still needs more than EI, right? So in the bottom, available monthly benefit waiting period less than 119 days is $1,000. So what this means is that EI is going to pay majority of that 3,500, but it's not going to pay that 3,500 altogether. So they still have some wiggle room. So EI is going to pay majority of it. The client still gets flexibility of getting $1,000, right? And when we talk about waiting period, this means how long does your client have to be off work for before they start getting their money, right? And another way of thinking about the waiting period is how fast do they need to pay for their bills? So if we take a look at 0 days, 30 days, or 119 days. So a 0-day waiting period means the moment the client gets into a disability, boom, they get $1,000 right away. But that might be costly for your client. So 30 days means for the first 30 days, the client is not working at all. They're off work completely for 30 days. Then the client starts getting $1,000, right? While EI is paying. Now, EI is going to pay majority of it. Once EI stops, which is after 119 days, IA will pay the rest of the benefit, which is $2,500 altogether. I don't want you guys to get caught up with the numbers, right? This is just an example because your client situation is going to be different and their numbers are going to be different. But just note that they're going to get $3,500. It's all going to come from different sources. Okay. Now, Tatiana, you said you had a question about the waiting period. What question was that?
Thank you for asking. I didn't get this to 2,500.
So that means, here you're going to have to do some math. So these two boxes always have to equal the maximum. What the maximum, so available monthly benefits 3,500, right? So you got to have to do some math. So how I got 2,500 is I took 35, I subtracted $1,000 because EI is going to pay that first. And then after EI is done, IA pays the difference. So what is the difference? So these two boxes always equal this amount.
Okay, but if they already, for example, get 2,500 from WCB, and
so IA will pay the difference. Right?
So
IA always will pay the difference. What's that?
And IA will pay 1,000 in this case.
In this case scenario, that's correct. That's right. So your client's situation is going to be different. And when your client makes a claim, IA will ask that, are they going to get WCB EI group benefits? We'll pay the difference. Otherwise, bless you, we'll just pay the non-integrated benefit.
Oh, right? There is a question. But how do they know if the WCB takes like 6 months to figure it out? But this benefit should be paid in 30 days, for example.
Right. No, that's fair enough. So what's going to happen? So unfortunately, IA will pay the rest of the full benefit, right? But they might have to pay back IA if WCB pays. So once WCB pays the client, then they're just going to have to pay the difference, right? Then they got overpaid through IA. I think I made that complicated.
So they later they will ask to return the money.
Yeah, because they weren't eligible for that amount that time. If WCB took 6 months to pay the client but
WCB, for example, WCB, so the process will take, for example, 5 months.
Right.
And they figured out, okay, they disabled and they became disabled 5 months before, you know?
Right.
And so WCB will pay like backwards all the 5 months.
But also IA does that too, though, right? Depending, yeah, I get what you mean, Tatiana.
Yeah, because I never deal with WCB and I'm I need to probably read more about that.
Right. So everyone has a different process and the waiting period is always different, right? But that's why your client has this policy so that while they're waiting with WCB, they can rely on IA. So they'll still get the $1,000 from IA. Sounds good?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
okay.
Thank you.
Perfect. So let's talk about what is the client covered for? What can they claim on? Pretty self-explanatory. Accident is a physical harm to the body. Accident could be a car accident. It could be you're at work, equipment fell on you, or maybe you're walking down the stairs, you tripped and fall. That is considered as an accident. Soft tissue injury. So soft tissue injury, 42% of disability claims is based on a soft tissue injury. By a show of hands, who here has back pain, neck pain, muscle pain, had a tear or ligament? I know I have, right? Well, if your client claims on a soft tissue injury in AxioJet, there's a limitation. So we're going to go to print/PDF over here. On the left-hand side, this is where you save the illustration. I always save the illustration because at some point of your WFG career, you're going to get audited. So always save the illustration. Here, advisor guide, the second link, click on it on page 4. This is where it's going to tell you your blanket exclusions and your limitations, right? So once this loads, we're going to go to page 4, and you're going to see here, page 4, bottom white box. We're going to read this, okay? So the insurance products includes an exclusion for any mental, psychological, or psychiatric disease or disorder, stress, depression, anxiety, burnout, or any disorder related to dependence or prescription of drug abuse. Is your mental health important to you? Or is your client's mental health important to you? I hope so. Because here, mental nervous disorders is a blanket exclusion. So if your client you got diagnosed with stress, depression, anxiety, burnout, that is not covered. Even if you have illness protection, that is not covered. Number 1. Number 2, a period of disability related to a soft tissue injury. Listen carefully. 30 days for occupational class B or C. 60 days for occupational class 1A. A lifetime maximum of 180 days for C, B, and 1A. A lifetime maximum of 36 months for 2A, 3, and 4A. Some medical conditions are excluded for disability in case of illness such as chronic fatigue syndrome or fibromyalgia. That was a handful. So if your client makes a claim for a soft tissue injury, it doesn't matter what their benefit period is, whether it's 2 years, 5 years, or up to age 70. Okay? Their benefit being paid is dependent on their occupation class. So my client, Juliana, is a hairdresser. That's a 1A. Other examples of a 1A are construction workers, truck drivers, framers, mechanics, right? Electricians. If they make a claim for a soft tissue injury, they're only going to get paid for 2 months. That's it. Your client gets paid for 2 months. They come back to you, says, Trina, my client's still not working and earning an income. Can they get more? No. That is a limitation on the product itself. Maybe your client is an Uber driver. They get into a car accident and turns out they got back pain. They make a claim, they're only going to get paid for 1 month. That's it. They come back to you. Says, the client's still not working. Can they get more? No, because it's a limitation on the product itself, right? So the client can claim on a soft tissue injury, but guess what? Is that 1 month or is that 2 months enough for your client? No, I don't think so. Do you? Probably not, right? Please. So that's why it's really important to outline this to your client. If your client is a 2A, 3A, or 4A, if they make a claim, sure, they're going to get paid for 3 years, but that's it. They can no longer claim on a soft tissue injury. So it's really important that when you're in front of your client and you're offering this to them, you talk about those limitations. You talk about the blanket exclusions, right? What is not being covered? Print out this page. Get your clients to sign or, put their initials in every single line. Give them a copy and have yourself a copy. So if they decide to proceed with AxioJet and they claim on soft tissue injury, you have a copy of this that you discuss this with their client. They can't come
Katrina, in terms of mental health and let's say what would be covered in terms of illness, especially when it comes to mental health?
So mental health is not covered, period.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So you can't go to the doctor and be like, I'm depressed and then get on this. No,
because this is AxioJet. This is not a product that's going to cover that. But if we're going to talk about illness, right? Let's go to our contracts. So instead of telling you a list of illnesses that are covered, we're going to give you a list of illnesses that are not covered, right? Make your life easier. Take your 2 index. Control F. Type in limitations. Boom, boom, boom. Go to page 19 and 20. Okay, if you have trouble sleeping at night, read this. I'm sure you're not going to have troubles after that, right? This tells you exactly what your limitations are, and it tells you exactly exclusions. So what are illnesses you are not covered for? right? What your client cannot claim on. It's pretty black and white here, right? That is not to say, AxoJet is a bad product. It's still a very good product, right? Especially for clients who are just looking for a top up or something simple. We're going to add a couple riders here to give that extra bit of protection. Number one, partial disability. So maybe your client goes sees the doctor. Instead of saying the client is totally disabled, they're partially disabled, meaning they can't do one or more of their job duties, or they can't work for more than 50% of the time. So instead of working 8 hours of the day, they could only work 4 hours of the day. They can get 50% of their benefit up to 6 months in actionable. Maybe your client says, I want to get some of my money back even if they don't claim. So the return of premium is different compared to CI. In CI, it's all premiums, right? Here, it's only 50% of the premiums, less any claims. The policy has to be enforced for a minimum of 10 years. And when they want to exercise that, it's only specific ages. So 55, 60, 65, or 70. So that is something that your client would want to be considering, but you might want to do some calculations on that. If your client is a business owner, right? They want to protect their business. They want to make sure the bills are still being paid. They can add the overhead expense insurance. Maximum benefit is $6,000. And this is only going to pay for the first 2 years of the claim. Each claim, I should say. And they have to prove those expenses at the time of claim. Last but not least, I don't want to bore you, so I'm just going to go straight into the most important rider, this extended medical care rider, further to an accident, right? So here, it's for $2.50. So let's say your client got into an accident and they needed to go to the hospital to get some checkups in, and the ambulance comes and gets them, right? Does anyone know how much an ambulance costs?
$300.
$150.
$60 or 75.
Okay, there's two. So you're all kind of close there. You're all in the same range. I like it. I like the enthusiasm.
Might be 80 now.
850.
Okay, so if you're a permanent resident or you're a Canadian citizen, if you call the ambulance, that's $90. If your client is a working visa, student visa, or maybe a visitor visa, and they call the ambulance, that is $700. But either way, who wants to pay for that very expensive taxi ride, right? And an ambulance ride is not covered by MSP. You're like, what? No, it's not. So let's say you got into a car accident, you have to go to the hospital. Great. You're already paying something out of your own pocket. You get to the hospital, they assess you. Now, based on your accident, maybe you needed crutches, a wheelchair. That is not free. The hospital will bill you, okay? Maybe because of your accident, you needed medication. Well, group coverage, right? Group insurance will only cover a portion of the medication. They don't always pay 100%. That's another cost. Or better yet, maybe because of your accident, your client needed chiro, physio, naturopath, RMT. One session in Vancouver is $130. So imagine if your client needed chiro and physio twice a week for the next 7 months to fully recover. Who's going to be able to afford that? No one, right? But guess what? $2.50, that is a no-brainer. That's cheaper than your cup of coffee from Starbucks. Trust me, I know, right? Now, by a show of thumbs, this premium, $145.70. If Juliana makes a claim, she's going to get paid for $3,500 each month for 5 years. She's covered for accidents, soft tissue injury, and illness. She's covered for partial disability. She's covered for the extended medical care rider. Would you say that's a good product for her? I would think so. Why? But maybe you were in front of your client, you talk about disability, they want this policy, but maybe it's not in their budget. Well, take a look at the benefit period, right? The longer the benefit period, the more it's going to cost your client. Sure, they're not going to get paid for 5 years, but that 2 years is still going to do something. We dropped the cost from $150 to $126. But at the end of the day, the one takeaway I want for you to remember is, what does this premium stand for? Why is your client paying for this policy? Is because you are giving the clients the greatest gift they can have, which is a peace of mind. knowing that if they got into an accident or got into an illness, they wouldn't have to worry financially. They wouldn't have to worry the bills are going to be paid. They wouldn't have to worry how the life insurance policy is going to be paid. They wouldn't have to worry about their investments. Why? Is because you gave them a solution that is going to protect their greatest asset, which is their income. And the best part about disability is two things. Number one, unlike you can make changes at any time. Oops, I'm so passenger. You can make changes anytime, right? You can add coverage, you can change coverage. Maybe your the client's income situation increase, right? You could change that. Or maybe, they didn't add a rider at the time of application, not a problem. And the second thing is that you can make as many claims. So I think someone has the hiccups. Unlike life insurance or when it comes to critical illness, once you make a claim, it's lump sum. The policy is no longer in force. When it comes to for disability, you can make as many claims, right? And each time the benefit, right, it restarts and you get paid the full length. So hopefully after today, it gave you a better insight. How does disability work? How do you start the conversation with your clients? And the next training we're going to do is we're going to do fully underwritten disability. And that will cover mental nervous disorders, right? And that will cover, soft tissue injury coverage. Any questions? Fantastic. I wanted to make sure we had more time here.
Yeah, I think if anyone has questions, you feel free to ask. I'm just going to show one more thing. I'm going to share my screen now, and I'm going to just, whatever Katrina just went over, if you ever sit down with a client, I'll show you a very simple way of explaining this product, okay? So I'm gonna share my screen, and you'll be able to see what I see. Here, I want you guys to take a screenshot or take a picture of this. You can offer the client job 1 or job 2, okay? In job 1, they earn $60,000, and if they get disabled, their income goes to 0, flat, okay, 0. Or they can take job 2, and here they earn $58,500. They have 24 hours of disability protection, and in case of disability, they get $3,500 monthly. Which job would you rather take? And I'll tell you this, if someone has bills to pay, a family to feed, and a mortgage to pay, more than likely they're going to take job 2. All right, great. Let's get your disability insurance in place. Let's apply and let's get started from there. Okay, so that's a very easy way to explain it. If you go into the illustration and so on, it gets complicated. That's for you to know. But when you're going to explain it to a client, I always recommend keeping things simple. So Katrina, any feedback on that? And then any questions anyone can ask. Oh, Katrina, we can't hear you. It's muted.
Oh, perfect. Sorry. No, that was fantastic. That's like the best way to explain it. Really, at the end of the day, it's like, do you want nothing or do you want something? Right? Like, what's going to matter when you don't have nothing? Put it that way.
Awesome. Fantastic. Juliana, any closing words?
Yes, I have actually. I remember from previous trainings, you mentioned that statistic about mental illness. And I have a question. Is it important to cover mental illness, especially after the COVID? And what is the statistics?
Right. I'm trying to remember because I've changed my presentation. I'm trying to remember what that statistic was, but absolutely. The thing is, we're only human. We have emotions. We never know when we're going to go through a life event, but we also never know how we're going to react to things, right? Stress, depression, anxiety, burnout. Everyone has it, right? Whether they've been diagnosed or not. So if you get diagnosed with depression and couldn't do your job, hey, we have a product for that. Or whether you get burnt out, right? You're only human. If you can't do your job because you're burnt out, you can make a claim. That's a different product. We're going to talk about that next time. And we're going to talk about why it's important to be protected for that. But how do you choose which product to offer to your clients? So that is next training. And we will book our next training shortly. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Katrina. Thank you for training our team. We will have you on again. And I hope everyone learned something today. So this is something you can offer, and you can really help your clients set up their financial future as well. Okay. So good night, everyone. I hope you guys learned something. Thank you once again, Katrina. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye.